we have a wonderful holiday guest. It is Amy Schumer, now appearing on Broadway in Steve Martin's Meteor Shower. Amy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, the pleasure is all ours.
Oh, no, that's not true.
So, I mean, first off, you're a huge arena-filling comedian, best-selling author, right?
Yeah,
Blockbuster
these are the
movies.
things that identify my, yes.
So what are you doing on rickety old Broadway?
Oh, it's not about the money, Jason. I have been doing plays since I was 5 years old, and then majored in theater in college. I've seen a ton of theater. I have a theater company. I did a 2-year Meisner intensive with William Esper.
You have a theater company now?
Yeah, The Collective.
So how often do you get to work with them?
We meet every Monday. We workshop new plays, or if there's something we're working on. Every movie or every scene on my TV show was also workshopped through my theater company.
Did you work with them at all for working on Meteor Shower?
No. Jerry Zaks really wanted me to kind of show him the respect of letting him direct me and us, and yeah, I trusted him and went with that and didn't get any extra help on the side. And
But were you someone who loved theater and then wanted to find a project, or was this one that came to you?
it's like I always wanted to go back to do theater.
Right.
And this came up, and I did Steve Martin's play Picasso at the Lebanagio in college.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he said, will you read this play? And I read it, and he was like, do you want to do it? And I was like, I do. I really do want to do it. And then the next question was, what's the least amount of time I can do it? I said, is that the kind of team player attitude you're looking for? Just with other like obligations I have, it was like, you know, they were like, okay, 3 weeks of previews, a 12-week run, and like a month and a half of rehearsal, which is still a pretty big commitment. And I said, let's do it. And we started doing readings and workshopping it, and yeah, and so it was a combination of Steve and really wanting to just get back on stage in a way that wasn't stand-up, and just learn, you know, like go in there knowing I know very little, and just, yeah, just
and
be
you're
open
doing
to
somebody
it.
else's material,
Yeah,
which is kind of unusual for you.
right. I do get the opportunity to do stuff I've written and also be collaborative with the writer. And Steve has been really, really cool and open with working with the actors on what we feel comfortable saying or ideas, and he's been really down to like let you try something, and then if it works, he's like, great, I'll put it in.
I would think he would identify with you. Do you think that's the case, that he looks at you and you have a career trajectory kind of similar to his?
We definitely connect and identify as performers. I don't know if it's because of, I think his trajectory was so crazy, and he skyrocketed so quickly. And even though it's been written that that's what happened to me, that has not been my experience.
You don't see it that way now?
No, I've been doing stand-up for 15 years, and I wrote Trainwreck, and that came out like 3 or 4 years ago. And so, you know, it was a good 10 years of you know.
Really hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is in front of a live audience. I mean, a lot of film actors have trouble coming to Broadway because they haven't worked in front of live audiences, which is not the case for you. But what is the difference between getting laughs in a comedy club audience versus a Broadway audience?
Well, the similarity I can start with, because I really think there's only one, which is that when you're, you know, it's like a science experiment. You do these jokes and they're tested, and by the time the play opens, you know where the laughs are. And some audiences, it'll be a big laugh, and some pretty muted, but once in a while, a joke that always hits just gets nothing. And it really throws you. And for me, I think bombing is really funny. You know, it really makes me laugh. If me or any of my co-stars in this play will say a joke we've said every night, and it just crickets, and we just, Laura Benanti says it's like she dies for a second and she sees her grandmother. So now we have trouble not, like, if a joke bombs, like kind of looking up to the sky and going like, Grandma? And that'll happen in stand-up too, and you're like, did I say it wrong? I mean, 10 out of 10 times a joke that works. And then the difference is it's really playing a character, because my stand-up has gotten closer and closer to who I really am. I'm playing a character. My theater training, it's real, like, really grounded in reality, and so, but you're playing this character who she's dynamic, you know. She goes through change by the end, but it's such a farce that to really live it out and just be this woman, and it's not that. So this was another way it was kind of less comfortable for me, because it's not just, you know, living this out truthfully. It's like, it's so insane.
Is it still changing night to night?
Not that much, but still, yeah, there will still be moments. It's like now we're open, and I don't know, I'm following the lead of these veterans, you know, Jeremy Shamus and Laura Benanti, who are just, I just love them so much. And Laura and I have fully fallen in love. So if they're, you know, there'll be nights where we break, and Laura will, just something she does, and it just kills me. And the other night, I literally just tapped Jeremy to say my next line, because I knew I would die laughing.
Don't people love it when you break?
They do.
Those are my favorites. Yeah.
But, you know, you do everything you can not to break.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad about it when I do. But it is, yeah, it's fun.
A lot of critics have pointed out that there's like allusions to Edward Albee, right? Is that
Albee, Ionesco, Durang. Sure.
Is that something that it was like a conscious thing in the rehearsal room that you talked about, or is it
No, not at all, actually.
Well, how
in
much was he there?
retrospect-
Steve Martin.
Oh, I was like, Edward Albee?
No,
Every day.
Edward Albee.
Steve was there a lot.
So
yeah, he's on the road with Marty Short doing their act, but he was there every second he could be.
So would he ever impose upon you his references, or he just let it play?
No, he was really respectful of Jerry also.
Yeah.
But we, you know, it was also just a free environment to pitch things and whatever. But I think one of the reasons and where he felt connected to me was he wrote this, and then from the first reading I would say it, and I could look at him, and he looked at you the way you want your parents to, your whole, just like beaming at me, you know, like that's exactly how I wanted that to be said.
Now, you spent 15 years on the road in comedy. You
Yeah.
just told me. And I only briefly was around. I worked in comedy clubs, and I was not a comedian.
Really?
But,
What'd you do?
Oh, I worked in Chicago for the Chicago Comedy Showcase. I did publicity and things like that.
Oh, cool.
It's a very sexist world. It's difficult.
Well, it's a sexist
difficult.
world anywhere.
Yes, in the big world. In the big world.
Yeah.
Did you, I mean...
I guess what you're asking kind of is like, is it harder for women in
Is it
comedy?
harder for women and yeah.
And how can you
how'd do it?
succeed
Yeah, how
under
can you
this?
succeed?
Yeah. So I would say it's harder just for women anywhere in any industry. Going to a Starbucks, it's just harder. You don't know what you're going to encounter. And some of the things that now with the climate when it comes to sexual harassment right now, I think we're more aware of these things that we've been conditioned to be used to. We're noticing them more and thinking, oh, I better tell this guy I'm uncomfortable with this, not just to protect yourself, but to protect the women who come after you, if they're a doctor or your coworker or just, you know, even a date. It's like it's up to us to teach people what behavior is okay. I would say as a female comic, in my experience, I was given more opportunities because they want a woman on the bill. It doesn't look good for them. So I was given opportunities I wasn't ready for. And, but you know, you got to catch up. You do the work, you get better. And I definitely encountered situations I was uncomfortable with, but I've had a very sweet path and have always been this way where I've just, you know, not been worried about being liked, you know, and now
That's
it's
a big
good.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, I just not having that concern about, well, I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. And I mean, I have over the years, like as a younger girl, maybe you know a guy's going to kiss you, and instead of going, hey, I can feel you're going to kiss me, just don't. You would just kind of be like, oh, I'll just kiss him so I can skip this interaction. But honestly, as a female comic, and I guess I just think of myself as a comic. I think that's important to say, but I didn't get harassed very much. There are, you know, rude comments and people making up reasons why I was succeeding and lies and things like that. And I'm like, I've never slept with anyone who could help me at all. You know, like that sounds great, but I've never even dated a guy with money.
Well, that does sound great.
Like, that sounds awesome.
Me neither.
But
has this whole moment made you think and look back on your career and think again about some exchanges that you had?
there are things now that I encounter that I didn't used to. You know, I've made like 5 movies, and those there were sex scenes. There's somebody coming over and miking you, and which means that there's someone, and you have a very nice sound guy here, so I don't want to make him self-conscious, but it's someone, you know, coming over and putting a little microphone here, and it's a very intimate thing. And then a sex scene, you know, I had a guy say he was completely off camera, but he was just kind of tapping my inner thigh, like and I'm like, why are you doing that? He's like, just like to help you like think of what it would be like. And I'm like, please don't do that. And they kept doing it. And you know, you just have to assert yourself.
Well, that's a Me Too moment.
There are Me Too moments every day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
really. And you know, I know for women it's like, oh, you don't want to make a big deal. But the thing is, it's not everyone already knows this, but it's not unique to actresses or comics in a male-dominated industry. It was when I was waiting tables was probably when it was worse than anywhere else, you know?
But yet you had the confidence to do very, what I'll call raunchy material, excuse me, you know.
Well, I think in a lot of ways, yeah.
You were brazen to do that, yeah.
I think in a lot of ways that was me trying to sort of take the control back. I make jokes about the things that make me the most uncomfortable. If there was sadness going on in our family, I'd find a way to joke about it. If things that really hurt me, like I used to watch that show I Survived, which it's just these stories of these people who had near-death experiences, and they were assaulted or they were attacked by a mountain lion. And the first time I saw an episode of that, I cried hysterically. I was so horrified with what happened to these 2 girlfriends. And then the next time I watched it, I was kind of laughing and joking about it. And it's because I just felt too awful and vulnerable. And so I think there is a lot of funny stuff to be mined from sex, but I think it is
when I read your biography, I saw that there was tragedy in your childhood with your father. You dealt with some tough stuff in your childhood, and that one wonders if that didn't add to your resilience.
Yeah,
that made you so tough.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. That was my defense mechanism.
But you also have done some of the funniest and kind of most important feminist humor, primarily in your TV show.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't help but wonder, like right now we're in such a revolution right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, oh, I would love to be working on sketch comedy right now so I could weigh in on what's going on?
I don't want to be doing that right now. Not since the election, not in this climate. I don't feel like I could make anything funny about this right now. Not really. I'm like too upset.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of
you
people
know,
like
I mean,
that.
and all this stuff, I was furious while we did it.
Right.
But I just feel like the election, it made us feel so beaten down, and it just needed a little time to recharge. And so right now I feel like is this sort of, this rise of me and my friends I'm close to, ready to really, really fight, you know?
This play is in many ways sort of escapist, but there's some lines in it which do kind of resonate with the moment. And you have this one line in the play where you say you wouldn't want to be, your character says, you wouldn't want to be a man because you couldn't stand the advantages.
Yeah, they say, aren't you glad you're not a man? And I say, oh, so relieved, I couldn't stand all the advantages. And the crowd goes nuts.
They do. Have they gone, has the reaction changed over the course?
Except for like one Wednesday matinee, but it was just a sea of the whitest, richest. It looked like the audience had been on the Titanic.
We have a minute left, but I just want to ask you, do you ever feel a little overwhelmed by all, I mean, you have things swirling around you now. I mean, you know, do you ever think, oh, this is too much, or are you just up to it?
It's just not real.
Ah.
As long as you know that, and I'm lucky, I was recognized as an artist, you know, in like my 30s. So I already knew this, it's cyclical, and that, you know, to get any confidence from any sort of hype about you or what people want to talk to you in that moment is I wasn't that naive. So my friends, my family, you know, that's it.
Amy Schumer, how wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Cinnamon, always a pleasure.
Susan.
Always a pleasure.
Wonderful, a pleasure.
He's the best. I'm told I use very banal adjectives. All right.
Who tells you that?
Wow.
Stop talking to that person.